Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. The sunken spaceship. The Baltic Sea anomaly has baffled scientists ever since it was discovered. Nobody knows what it even is, with theories ranging from an alien spaceship to an underwater Nazi bunker, the lost city of Atlantis, or just a piece of rock. Marine explorers identified the structure on the bottom of the sea between Sweden and Finland about a decade ago. Sonar images revealed a mysterious shape in the Baltic Sea, a shape that looks an awful lot like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. At least that's one interpretation of it. Some say it looks like a starship that crashed, leaving behind a 1,000-foot skid mark. Others think it looks a little more like an underwater base, perhaps the remains of something constructed by a lost civilization or a secret government agency. The anomaly allegedly gives off a strange electrical interference, which has led to speculation that it's a forgotten alien device. Other wild speculation says it could be the remnants of a military project from World War II dumped in the ocean. But Associate Professor Volker Bruchert from Stockholm University says the object is nothing but a glacial deposit, one that formed during the Ice Age. Which theory do you prefer? Let me know in the comments below. Number 9. The hot tub of despair. In the Gulf of Mexico, 3,300 feet beneath the surface, is a geological marvel called the hot tub of despair. It's an underwater lake, a sunken crater of extremely salty water and methane that kills every creature foolish enough to swim into it. Scientists discovered the horrible underwater lake using the remotely operated vehicle, the Hercules. Researchers were surprised to discover an absurd number of crab corpses that had accidentally scuttled into the pool and succumbed to the elements. Scott Wankel, a marine chemist, speculated some animals traveled to the hot tub of despair just to die. The underwater lake is something known as a brine pool. The brine is so thick you can physically land a submarine on top of it, like driving a car onto a lake of salt. Even though it's at the bottom of the ocean, way down in the deep sea, it's still a pool because the liquid is of a different consistency. It formed over millions of years as salt evaporated and seeped into huge pits. As the salt becomes heavier and heavier, it slowly breaks through the shale beneath and allows oil and gas to escape, turning the brine pools into toxic death traps. The reason the pool is so toxic to most sea creatures is that the fluid contains little oxygen and poisonous chemicals. It's a cesspool of hydrogen sulfide and methane, which kills fish and other organisms almost instantaneously when they come into contact with it. Number 8. Lion City. Underneath the surface of Qiandao Lake in China lies a mysterious lost city dating back centuries. It's called Xicheng, or Lion City. It was flooded during the industrialization of China during the 1950s. A hydroelectric dam was built for the province, which required the ancient city to be completely submerged. The lake itself, called Thousand Island Lake, is a massive body of fresh water. There are over 1,000 islands in the lake, which is where it gets its name. Lion City was home to about 300,000 people when it became lost at the bottom of the lake. Its sinking erased centuries of ancestral history. Most historians agree Lion City was built in 621 AD by the Tang dynasty, making it over 1,400 years old. It had 265 arches, many temples, thousands of homes, and paved roads. It was a truly ancient city from Imperial China, and it's in almost the exact same shape as it was 70 years ago. Thanks to the cold water, the whole place is preserved like a watery museum. Stonework from the Middle Ages and city walls from the 16th century still stand strong as if they were just built. The most surprising thing is that after the city was submerged, people forgot about it. Hundreds of years of history just slipped everybody's mind, and it wasn't rediscovered until 2001. Pictures didn't begin circulating until 2011, which was when the general public took an interest. Lion City is now a popular scuba diving site for tourists looking to get a look at some underwater history. Would you like to visit? Let me know in the comments. Number 7. The Oasis of Ravenous Sharks. 500 meters beneath the surface of the Indian Ocean, deep-sea divers discovered an unknown ecosystem. The ecosystem is a dangerous place, filled with hungry sharks looking for food. scientists named the region the trapping zone and compared it to a very large ocean desert. It's located not far from the Maldives, pretty close to the infamous Mariana Trench. Researchers who embarked on an underwater mission were shocked to see huge schools of fish and sharks like dense, swarming clouds. The thing about this place is that it's blocked by steep cliffs and fossilized reefs. Tiny creatures known as micronecton swim down into the zone and then have a difficult time finding their way out. This attracted the sharks, who now seem to live here permanently. It's a distinctive and unique ecosystem, a stable circle of prey and predator. The ravenous sharks constantly hunt the micronecton, who run and hide and breed. But because of these slopes, both prey and predator are stuck together in this underwater oasis. But of course, there are a lot of other creatures here as well. There are deep water, spiky Oreo fish, schools of tuna, six-gill sharks, tiger sharks, gulper sharks, silky sharks, and even scalloped hammerhead sharks. It's a never-ending feeding frenzy. And now for number 6. But first, it's shout-out time! Big thank you to Nicole Black and Chris Wilbur Dyson for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to keep up with all of the latest discoveries. Number 6. 17th century warship. The wreckage of a 17th century warship called the Applet was recently discovered by archaeologists in Sweden. It was a monumental discovery because the warship has direct ties to the Vasa, its sister ship that capsized in 1625 on its maiden voyage. The Vasa is currently on display in a Stockholm museum, but the wreckage of the Applet eluded researchers for years. Now it's finally been found, and it's nothing short of amazing. The Applet served in the 30 Years' War and was deliberately sunk off the coast of Stockholm in 1659, when it was deemed unseaworthy. The 30 Years' War was one of the most devastating conflicts in European history, which lasted between 1618 and 1648. It was one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history, resulting in over 8 million casualties, not only from military battles, but from famine and disease. It all started because of the Catholic and Protestant states which formed the wildly unstable Holy Roman Empire. But as the war evolved, it became less about religion and more about who was going to rule Europe with an iron fist for the next few centuries. Getting back to the boat, it was discovered by local archaeologists working with the Swedish Navy. Everyone was shocked because they had given up hope that any additional wrecks would be found in the area. The seabed near Sweden was covered in rocks in the 1800s, then completely dredged in the early 1900s. There shouldn't have been anything left to find, yet they uncovered a full warship. But because the shipwreck is in a protected military area, there is no way to salvage it. Divers aren't even allowed to go down there unless accompanied by the Swedish Navy. Number 5. The Great Dog Island airplane wreck. Off the shore of Great Dog Island in the British Virgin Islands, there is an airplane sitting at the bottom of the ocean. There isn't much left of the aircraft today, but it is a popular dive site with a bizarre history. It all began in 1993. The airplane was scheduled to leave from Tortola carrying 27 passengers, but it never did. The aircraft ran off the runway and went straight into the sea and sank. It hit the water about 200 feet from the end of the runway, though luckily everyone on board survived. The airplane was later pulled out of its murky graveyard and stuffed into a hangar, but it was utterly destroyed. It briefly found itself used as a movie prop before being thrown in the water at Great Dog Island to become an artificial reef. It's still out there today under 40 feet of water, looking more like a coral garden than a destroyed airplane. That's good, at least it was sacrificed for a higher purpose. If you can't be an airplane, why not be a coral reef? Number 4. Treasure from the Titanic. All kinds of strange and fascinating treasures have been rescued from the floor of the Atlantic Ocean, specifically from the wreckage of the Titanic. Each and every piece salvaged by divers is worth a small fortune. A doll head was rescued from the Titanic in 1977 and sold for $7,900. Divers first thought the porcelain figure was a rock, then realized it was the head of a doll. The sailor who found it, dredged up from a depth of about 2,000 meters, kept it until he died in 1992. The head then found its way to a museum in Spain before being sold at auction in 2018. But there's a lot more where that came from. A biscuit from one of the lifeboats was sold to a collector in Greece for about $23,000 in 2015. One of the life jackets from the Titanic was discovered by a farmer on the shoreline of Nova Scotia in 1912. It was unused, so it didn't come from one of the survivors. It must have made its way from the wreckage, then floated across the Atlantic Ocean until it wound up on shore in Canada. It's one of only 6 Titanic life jackets found, and it sold for $68,000. When the Titanic started to sink, everyone panicked. In the pandemonium that swept over everyone on board, they started throwing things off the ship in hopes that it would stop it from sinking. One of the objects thrown overboard was a deck chair, which was pulled out of the ocean and then sold in 2015 for $154,000. Number 3. Medieval shipwreck. Researchers from Bournemouth University in the UK have discovered what could be the earliest medieval shipwreck in English waters. The vessel, called a clinker ship, was made from overlapping planks of wood and carried a cargo of raw stone when it sank in the 13th century. In the early medieval days, Purbeck marble slabs were used across much of England. These slabs were also exported to Ireland and mainland Europe for construction. We know this is a transport ship because the wreckage was found littered with huge stones that had been quarried and then sent for sale. An analysis of the wood used to build the ship's hull revealed the trees were cut down around 1242 AD in Ireland. This is a great example of medieval globalization. The wood was cut down in Ireland, shipped to England, then used in the construction of a boat. That boat was set to bring English stones back to Ireland, completing the circle. Tom Cousins, a member of the research team, says very few ships of this age are ever found. These ships sank for unknown reasons 750 years ago, then was discovered by a local charter boat skipper following a violent storm. It's now the earliest English protected wreck site with its hull still intact. Number 2. Mystery creatures. Some very strange creatures have just been found at the bottom of the Indian Ocean. Things like eels with no eyes, fish that look like bats, and underwater lizards with rows of deadly teeth. The discoveries were made by scientists with Australia's Museum's Victoria Research Institute. They were investigating a string of underwater volcanoes 2,500 miles from Australia when they started seeing all these weird critters. Scientist Tim O'Hara says each species is adapted to exist in the extreme deep-sea environment. One of the never-before-seen specimens was a blind eel with extremely gelatinous skin like pale jelly. The eel lives at an extreme depth where almost no light can reach. For this reason, it has developed extremely poor eyesight. It's basically blind, and uses its other sensors to navigate its watery home. The team also found a creepy monster called the high-fin lizardfish. It has a disgusting red mouth as if it's bleeding from its gums, and translucent white skin. Other freaky critters include the flatfish, a fish that, as its name suggests, is totally flat and has 2 eyeballs on one side of its head instead of on either side. They also came across a viperfish with translucent fangs. And then there are the other animals that appear to be entirely new species, each one uglier and more frightening than the last. Number 1. Roman anchor. Off the coast of England, maritime archaeologists found a rare Roman anchor sitting at the bottom of the ocean. They believe it belonged to a Roman Navy ship that was involved in the invasion of Britain 2,000 years ago. The enormous anchor weighs a whopping 220 pounds and was made from solid iron. It's nearly 7 feet long and was found when researchers were doing survey work at the potential site for a new offshore wind farm. This discovery is a big deal. According to Brandon Mason from Maritime Archaeology Limited, only 3 pre-Viking anchors have ever been found in northern European waters. That means anchors prior to 750 AD. This is part of a rare collection. It was likely used by a trading vessel of the Classis Britannica. The Classis Britannica was the very first British Navy formed in the 1st century AD. The ships that the Romans used to conquer Britain were then used by later generations to defend it. The whole company consisted of around 7,000 crew members and 900 ships. That was the kind of power needed for the Romans to take Britain for themselves in 43 AD. The Roman Navy delivered thousands of soldiers from mainland Europe to the peaceful fields of Britain and conquered the lands. This anchor is a physical reminder of Britain's Roman past. Thanks for watching! Would you ever go scuba diving to see a sunken medieval ship? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and come back soon. Bye!